Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So, as you can tell, this is a run in Rhode Island. This is Providence, the East Bay Bike Path, I think is what it's called. So, there'll be plenty of rain, but we'll see how many miles we can do. So normally, I do 10 to 12 miles, but we'll see. We'll take it by ear. See how much we can deal with. As you can see, water's falling everywhere, so that's not going to be much fun. Anyway, let's stop messing around. And enjoy, at least until it gets too wet to see. As usual, I do not like coming out in the rain when I first start. So some of you will be like, oh, well, you just like it. No, I don't. It's once I'm warmed up that it feels better. Rain runs are my favorites. But I have to overcome that initial resistance to running in the rain. I don't like it any more than any of you do. All of you, when you're coming out of your nice warm house into rain, you're kidding, it sucks. Now, there's another important caveat. That is, when I talk about rain runs, I'm not talking about the freezing cold ones. So, like right now, I checked the weather, I think it's like 59, 58 degrees. That's about as cold. The coldest I will run is about 50-degree rain. Because actually I think one time I ran in 40-degree rain. Oh my God. That stuff almost felt like it was gonna kill me. Because once it gets colder, you get a new danger, and that is the danger of hypothermia. So it's no longer, and I've realized that. So I think, like I said, that the coldest run I did was 40, and it felt like I was gonna die. A number of times I had to run super fast. That's the one good thing, is when the weather's very cold, I run my fastest. Some of my fastest runs are in very, very cold weather. And this one cold run, this beginning of this year, as a matter of fact, was so cold that, yes, I could have died from that run if I would have slowed down. The biggest danger there was actually tripping and falling and no longer being able to keep my pace. As long as I kept moving, there was no real danger. The rain wasn't too bad. It's kind of like this, yeah. But it was, like I said, I think it was 40, and then with the water coming down, and it was coming down very cold, because once the rain comes down at 40 degrees, it actually cools you down even, as you can imagine, it cools you down even further. My skin was red from the wetness. So I do try to avoid that kind of extreme rain. So when I say I like rain runs, no, I would say 55 and above. 50 is, okay, that's the lower end of tolerable. I can deal with 50. I don't think I can deal with any lower than that. After that, it starts to become... Now, I just told you though, I can do it because as you warm up, the rain starts to feel pretty good. Instead of being, painful and uncomfortable, it becomes comfortable because of all the heat that you're generating. And that's an important feeling. Again, I apologize for all the shaking. I wish I could take my gimbal out, but I actually have it wrapped up in plastic because the last time I lost it, that's a couple $100. I don't want to lose it again. So I'm not going to take it out unless unless the rain goes away. So I have it in case it does stop raining for a bit. We'll see. as I said, once you start warming up, it actually feels good. At least within the context of running always hurts. Yes, it still hurts. It's never gonna stop hurting. Sorry. Those of you who've seen my videos know that it always hurts. At least for me. I actually got into an argument with a runner. He was really, really mad at me, by the way. This is like, no, it can't hurt. I love it. I love the way, I didn't know people were so passionate about defending how good it feels for them. He insisted I must be lying. Like, dude, I accept that maybe you feel great. I tried to say that you feel pain, but your positive feedback is part of what makes it feel great. I've explained that before in other videos. That there's still some pain. I mean, if he didn't feel any pain, that what would stop him from running absolute all balls out? And he might be like, well, because I know that if I run too fast, I'll burn up. Yeah, burning up. One of the essential parts of feedback for burning up is pain. My whole point is the pain in his life isn't as significant as it was in mine because he got lots of positive feedback. That was my whole point. Remember, it's a long discussion. But I just say because for those runners who hate me, and that's what I'm saying, he really hated me. He was like yelling right in my face. You're absolutely wrong. Wow, guy, calm down. It should be me who's yelling at you for ignoring how painful it was to many of us. And because attitudes like his are precisely why many of us didn't run. Because they keep telling us we're doing it wrong. And we feel like we're doing it wrong and we're getting all this negative feedback, so we don't do it. Whereas I'm trying to tell most of you folks, it hurts. Well, of course, always remember, I'm not saying hurts as an injury hurt. I'm saying hurts as in I don't want to run anymore. But if I stop, but not injury. That's quite different. Looking around. Okay, so it looks like we've reached the extent of our run. 7.23 miles. So when we hit 7:25, we'll turn around. But as you can see, as usual, I run barefoot. And you might be like, well, isn't it more dangerous to run barefoot in the rain? And here's the thing. Technically, yes, with running shoes with a good tread, they will probably have better grip on the ground, in wet ground, yes. But when you are barefoot, and especially if you have more than 1,000 miles of experience running in wet ground, your feet give you so much tactile feedback. It's 7.29 when I turn around. Your feet have so much tactile feedback that you can sense the safety of the ground, how slippery it is, and all kinds of things. Here's the thing is, that kind of competence is not mental. It becomes instinctive. I don't think about it. My feet, it's kind of like saying, my feet know it. I don't. My feet kind of figure it out. And so my feet will tell me how fast I can run safely. And considering the fact that in all these thousands of miles, I've never slipped. Well, I've slipped like if I'm like going down a slippery slope or something and there's no point. But I mean, not like out of just carelessness, like you're like, I'm like, whoops. Nope, that just doesn't happen. And a lot of it is because, like I said, my foot, my instinct is already quite strong here. And my feet know how fast I can go. And so they will push me to the speed that I can go. And I will not exceed it. So, yes, shoes will give you better grip, but you lose that tactile feedback that I have. And so I can feel it And the difference, by the way, between shoes and my feet is very small. So it's not like shoes are twice as good. Nah, there might be 5 or 10% better grip, but that's about it. My feet, they can tell. And like I said, probably the most important thing is, for those of you who start, it's like, it takes a while, but those are all the skills you learn when you exercise anyway, which is that competence that becomes instinctive. It's instinctive for me now. I don't even think about it. I think about other things, like this amazingly beautiful run. This has just been absolutely gorgeous, really. I actually wish I could have pulled out the gimbal and shown you an hour's worth of this run, because it was beautiful. I mean, running always hurts, but in this case though, it was still beautiful. Both things can be true. Look at this. But right now it's actually let up a little. It's not raining as bad as it was for the past hour. Or for the past half hour, actually, it was raining pretty bad. So you can imagine. But yes, that's why I do like running in the rain. It is amazing. And that, along with the fact that, remember I told you when I first started, no, like most of you, I don't want to come out here in the rain when I'm first out. There it is, the rain's back. I didn't want to come out, but since I already know from experience that the initial getting out of the door is the hardest part. Once you're out here after about 5-10 minutes of warming up, it feels good, man. Okay.
Lap 12, 8:20. Heart rate 152. Average pace 8:43.
Running too fast, I know. But we're done. Just hit 12:25. And we're done. Okay. We are done. Whew. 12.28. Ooh. Ooh. That was pain. Okay. Oh. Oh. Okay, let's go ahead and continue with our break, or our cool down, I mean. Okay, so we are done with that run. That was a little over 12 miles. And then there was a 2.35 mile cool down, as you can tell. This was a rain run. And by default, rain runs are just absolutely beautiful. But as always, and I can't stress this enough because too many of you will be like, no, they feel terrible. I don't want to go. I feel exactly the same resistance to getting out of the door. Getting out the door feels awful until you're out there, and then even then it feels awful. So just get your ass in gear, and 5 minutes into your run, once you start warming up, you'll realize that the water, instead of being uncomfortable, it's refreshing. That's the whole point. And this is especially important to, like I said, to those of us who run but are not natural runners. To those of us for whom running hurts. Part of why running hurts is because you're pushing so hard that there's so much pain going on. And if you recall, this was a long discussion, but since I talked about people who got mad at me for saying this, I have to explain that sometimes what it is that I grew up with more negative feedback because I was slow, fat, and pudgy. I wasn't fast, so whenever I'd run, I'd lose. This is a point that I really can't stress enough, that as you grew up, the kind of feedback you got often helped to mold the kind of athlete you became. Most people in my place will not become athletes. I'd say 97% of people who grew up with my negative feedback, being the last one picked on the team, being slow all your life. Even now I feel slow. I have that irrational fear of racing. I will overcome it. As a matter of fact, I'm making a promise that next year I will start running in races. God, that terrifies me. The very thought of it gives me anxiety. But I will conquer it. I'm not going to let that beat me, because that's part of what growth is. And that's what I do here. I resist it. And part of the problem is that many of the people who are good runners don't understand that, because their world was a completely different one. They lived in the rarefied air where their runs, they were always beating the fuck out of people. And to them, sometimes if they sit and think, they actually can realize that, yeah, they probably were faster. But it never settles down enough to realize it really made a big difference in the way that their wiring, their subconscious wiring, gave them that feeling of confidence in where they probably feel pain, but the pain is secondary to all that positive feedback that they get. Whereas for me, it was the pain is first, and the positive feedback only came back after years of pushing and pushing and pushing, and that's hard. But if I can do it, so can you. So don't forget, as always, like me, challenge yourself, and let's grow together.